you came in, you wrote this copy with the terms on it, and everybody started accepting. What's your secret?
Look at stuff like what's the view to click conversion, what's the view to download conversion. So look at all these numbers and like try again. We use this actually in our day-to-day life to predict the results.
Welcome to another installment of the Creator Partnerships podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Today we have Anna Klappenbach. Do I get it right? I think so.
Yes.
No, that's with extra Canadian accent. Hope you like that spin on it. Anna is heading up influencer marketing partnerships at AUMIO, but has been at all kinds of interesting places.
Well, thanks for having me. As you mentioned, I'm the brand and community marketing lead now at AUMIO, mostly handling all of our creative partnerships, leading a small team as well. My background's in communications, brand marketing, and social media. Buzu was obviously the start where we started talking and working together as well. I'm now at AUMIO. It's a sleep solution for babies and children. We help families sleep and relax, which is obviously very important.
Yeah, I think parents are very grateful. Any parent listening to this is like, wait, I can get my kid to go to sleep, and checking out AUMIO as soon as you said that.
It's definitely a very nice reason to get up in the morning for me.
Maybe first you want to give an overview kind of how the Creator Partnerships program looks at AUMIO today. Who are you targeting? How the whole thing got started and where you're at today, I guess.
Maybe 2.5 years ago, we had a part-time employee kind of looking into Creator Partnerships and having no experience at all, kind of like building it all from scratch. So we managed to build a really loyal base of creators that we worked with. I joined about a year ago to scale that a little bit and shape it a little bit more. And content creators are obviously a really great way of reaching your target audience, especially as an app. And there's a big parent niche obviously as well on Instagram, the so-called mumfluencers. So that's kind of who we're targeting. Anyone with usually a female audience, but parents. So our creators are mostly parents themselves. Sleep tips, anything connected to mindfulness is a big topic, and so those are the people that we're targeting. The way Creator Partnerships work at the moment is there's two aspects to it. So usually we work with fixed fees and a fixed budget where we go in sourcing influencers, obviously using Modash. Previously, the team used to just directly source on Instagram via hashtags, etc. Super time consuming, as you can imagine. But now, since I joined, I brought Modash along with me again. So we're sourcing mostly for Instagram campaigns and reach out to them and then, basically start negotiations. Second aspect is affiliates, which is basically a lot of inbound traffic, requests from smaller influencers, from small communities wanting to work with us and collaborate. And so that's kind of like the two parts to the Creator Partnerships that we currently run at AUMIO.
Got you. Okay. So you showed up, I think you said 1.5 years ago, and the state was kind of still experimental. Can we get this channel to sort of work? And there was positive signals. So you walked in and said, hey, let's make it happen. Yeah.
The channel was actually working already, which is why
sweet.
I was hired. It was pretty clear pretty quickly that influencer marketing was just the way to go, especially in comparison, like looking at like cost per acquisition and those sort of KPIs that we usually work with. It was just the best way of getting people in. And it was just smaller and a little bit more experimental. So I came in and I brought my spreadsheets and my tools and all these things, and kind of look at the data side of things as well a little bit more, and hired two full-time employees as well.
You mentioned affiliate, and I want to get to that. And we also talked a little bit about the magic of negotiating with creators. So we'll cover that in this episode as well. Maybe let's start really briefly. I know you've been experimenting with this inbound model of capturing creators, and I think it's kind of practical thing. So I'm curious, in your case, I think what some folks have done is kind of set up a form and have people apply there. But I know in your case, it's more related to creators are pinging customer support. They're pinging the chat or sending you an email, maybe whatever. It'd be curious just to hear the simple bits. How do you manage that flow of inbound creators who are pinging you, and how do you think about that in the future? Are you experimenting?
So basically, when I joined, I noticed that we got a lot of DMs from, you know, mums that are just building their community on Instagram, the size ranging from maybe like a few hundred followers or 1,000 to, I don't know, 7,000 or 8,000 usually in terms of following, which is normally a little bit too small for us to invest time and resources to, you know, negotiate, draft up contracts and like brief them properly. And like, it's just like all these little steps that we kind of like feel like too much input for too little outcome from a performance side of things. But yeah, the inbound is really strong because it's usually people that really, really love the app and that have already paid for it. It really works for them because, and they just really love it. And sometimes they're even like, I don't even want to be paid. I just want a discount code for my community. People are interested. I want to share it. Initially, what we did was we had a couple of bullet points that we would send across, and we'd say in the DM, right? So we'd reply right then and there, and be like, hey, your profile looks cool. We'd be happy to consider you for our affiliate program, which looks like this at the moment. And so we'd give them completely transparent all of the steps and the payout, etc., like the terms and conditions, basically. I want to say that about 95%, if not more, agreed to them, and they're very happy with them because they already love the app so much. But so we used to just reply directly and then switch to email, which obviously is, you know, an extra step every single time. I just try to spread it across my team members so that all of us have a couple that we manage. And as you mentioned, we do have a form as well. So recently we wanted to automate the process a little bit more to make it just more efficient to work with. And now we have a little sign-up page on our homepage where it's basically just a type form that the interested parties can sign up at, and they have to give us their insights as well. So they have to upload a screenshot of some insights. And that's basically the way that we get inbound messages now. So they come straight into our email account, and we only get back to them if we're interested in them.
So then there's basically two ways that creators can get to AUMIO inbound. One is through messaging. So either they send a DM on Instagram, basically, or maybe they ping somewhere else. And the team, it has a few templates, or kind of, I guess you have some sort of pre-defined components that you send over and say, yeah, it looks great. These are our terms. And from there, do creators immediately kind of click a link and go to that form you mentioned, or do they respond, or how does that piece work?
So the form is in our bio as well.
Oh, cool.
So it's basically just aumio.de/affiliate, I think. So it's either using the form or DMing us. We've recently actually reduced the steps as well in the process, because we're like, if a person wants to work with us, why not just let them do that? You know, it's fine. In the end, the great thing about affiliates is that we basically don't lose anything. We can only grow, and we can only, you know, spread the words. And if it means like 5 more customers, you know, that are happy and loyal, fine. That's also great. We would usually look at the insights, the reach, write all of that down in a list. We would check their first piece of content. We would agree on posting dates. We would bring them into the usual flow that we normally have with our fixed fee creators.
Right.
But now we've simplified it. We're like, okay, what is actually relevant? It's relevant that the person's interested. And if they don't post, then that's their loss. Because in the end, what we say is post up to 4 pieces of content of your choice. It can be anything. It can be like a blog post. It can be stories. Do that over the course of 2 months. This is how long you can use AUMIO for free as well. And then once you've completed all your postings, send us the insights of those, you know, clicks or I don't know, reach, etc. Basically, prove to us that you've posted, and we'll, you know, see if there's code redemptions.
Gotcha.
It's their responsibility now as well to kind of like show that they've worked. for us, and then we can reward them afterwards.
Oh, I love that. That's really cool. So basically, in order to scale up the number of partnerships without scaling the amount of headcount, you do delegate some of the tasks to the creator, actually. So uploading things like posting, which makes perfect sense, and I think is way better even than just trying to restrict everything into some super structured workflow. It's better for the creator as well, and it's a good proxy for how much they care.
For sure, exactly. So it's their responsibility. We show that we trust them, and we usually do. And what's the worst case? That someone with a couple of hundreds of story views says one thing that's not correct about the brand. They confuse something. That's why we approve content, right? Because we want them to hit a certain the basic points about AUMIO, and we want them to be correct and not misinform the community. I'd rather they tell their own story and have one little mistake in there than control them. And
I'm curious, you have lots of these folks come through, and there must be, I know you're not super peculiar about correcting every little detail, but I'm sure you do maybe have a little info package, or what kind of prompts or material do you give them ahead of time to set them up for success?
So when we say that there's an inbound via email, right, or via the form, and we start emailing, we usually say, this is what our program looks like. Attached, you find a brand booklet, and that's a very, very brief booklet on who makes AUMIO. It's psychologists, and that's kind of an important aspect. We're child safe, we're kid safe listed. We're available in French, English, and German, etc., etc. It's audio first, no screen time, blah, blah, blah. So more broader kind of general facts about the brand and the product. And that also has an access code for them to test. And that's what we send them. And we say, here is information about AUMIO. We want you to test at least 2 weeks so you're certain that this is a product that you love. Because we do get requests of people that think we're a website, but we're an app. Oh. So you can tell that sometimes there's inbound that is just a bit they just want some sort of, collaboration with any brand. If you want to work with us, get back to us. They're usually already happy with AUMIO, and then we give them a general briefing. And in the briefing, it's a 2-pager. It's really simple. We have an overview page where, we have the deliverables and the timeline listed, which we found quite important because it just helps, alongside the discount code that we share and a link to the App Store that is also personalized for tracking reasons. And so they have basically everything they need on the front page, a little welcome personalized. So we use Pipedrive. It's a sales tool, but we use it because it can personalize documents like this by adding the creator's name automatically and the code, etc. So a little less work for us. And then the second page is very basic briefing. We always want them to be authentic and to tell a personal story. And so I think it has 3 bullet points for the first story, how they can introduce it. It's more like a framework, I would say, and the call to action. And then we say and the other content could look like this. This is how you could go from there. So for the first piece of content that they produce, it's a little bit more kind of a bit more of a narrative and a storyline and kind of what's worked well for us in the past. And then it's suggestions mostly.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Do you share is there, for example, links to branded content or some videos or something that they can see? Do you share direct?
No.
Okay, just the as you described, a framework. So basically you're trying to give them this this creative framework so that they don't have to go through the struggle of trying to understand AUMIO and tell a good story, and they're more likely to come up with successful creative faster, so they get the post out and it's super big win.
Authenticity is what we want. This is why we work with creators, right? Otherwise you could post an ad, or you can get someone to read out an ad for you, and that's exactly what we don't want. We want to reach the people that they already have as a community because the community follows them because they like them.
Right.
We don't want it to sound like an ad, and we want genuine content, and that just performed the best. It's true for all of the campaigns I think I've ever run. Yeah. It's if you leave the creativity and the sort of creative freedom to the creator, you will not only have a very loyal partner in them, but you will also get much more authentic content, and you will learn about your brand as well. Because what's interesting is what they actually say and what they think is important. So at the same time, it's feedback as well that you get about your brand.
That's really cool. I had never thought about that before. Through those creators, like there's kind of an infinite number of stories you can tell about your company. And some of them are good and some of them aren't so good and some of them resonate and some of them don't. But you'll never come up with all of them. So it's interesting that when you give creators the creative freedom, they can kind of help you define the brand story and the way that you can tell it. That's really cool. So how does affiliate play into your influencer relationship? How have you set this up? Why have you set this up? And maybe from the very basic, what does it mean that your influencers are on affiliate comp model?
Let's start with go back to inbound. When I joined again, I noticed lots of inbound messages. By default, the team that I had taken over, they had, it's like a couple of brilliant working students, right? And they had calculated some sort of payout that they thought was fair. We weren't breaking even, but no one thought that's fair. This is why I came into
spreadsheets.
into the role that I am in now. The spreadsheets, the data, the numbers. I basically just tested it. I was like, hey, this is our program. And this is literally, we didn't have a program. There was no such thing as an affiliate program at AUMIO. Didn't exist. But I was like, okay, let's try it, make it sound like it does. And then maybe it can come into into reality. And it did. I shared it with the team. I was like, look, this is the message I'm sending out. Try it. Let's try it. And everyone said yes to the terms. And it was a much cheaper and much more enthusiastic, like just a better way of collaborating and faster as well.
Wow.
Yeah, what we call affiliate now is basically anyone who would like to promote AUMIO on a payout basis, right? So they get paid out for the codes that are redeemed. They have all their personalized discount codes, and we count them and we pay them out based on that. A code gets redeemed when someone starts a free trial. Mm-hmm. So we have a 7-day free trial. It's a typical subscription. We don't pay them out per sale because I don't think the influencers should be responsible for sales per se, but for app downloads, clicks, and trial started. That's kind of what it's the acquisition, right? Like getting the people into the app. Not everyone will agree, and that's fair. So we pay them out per trial starters for their code redemptions.
The first thing you said, and you just breezed by it as if it doesn't make you a superhero, was that you came in, you wrote this copy with the terms on it, and everybody started accepting. And to me, my head was exploding because so many people come to us and they say, oh, it's totally impossible to get creators to agree to an affiliate model. You can't tell me that. Do they really think that's a good idea? They don't accept this. So what's your secret?
Yeah. So the secret is, I don't want to share it. I don't, no. So the secret is actually making it sound more exclusive than it is. Oh. And it's really simple. It's basically, we say, hey, your profile looks really nice. We can see that you could be a fit for a program. We might accept, we think we could accept you into our program. And so that's basically the first sentence that we send before the terms. I don't know if that has any effect, by the way. I think it's just inbound leads and they love our product as well. So that's I think that plays a big role. Basically, the terms are structured in a way where we're like, first of all, we want you to test. We really want you to be passionate about our product at no cost, right? Test as long as you want. We had creators that have under 10K following that tested the app for 2 months. And then they got back and they're like, okay, I've actually properly tested it. Now I'm confident. Because we're talking about kids, right? Children, babies. People want to be safe. They really only want to recommend what they really trust. Second is you will receive an annual subscription. And sometimes we also offer an extra annual subscription that they can maybe share, like gift to their followers or gift to someone they know.
Oh, cool.
And then it's basically like your community will receive a discount. That's awesome, right? Like that's fun. They're gonna be happy about that. And obviously we also want to share this success with you. This is how we phrase it. We want to share the success with you. It's not so much transactional as we're in this together. Mm-hmm. We want to share the success. Your success is our success and vice versa. So that's the payout. There's a lot of sincerity in the way we run influencer marketing, I think.
There's something so powerful about setting expectations clearly. we want you to do this, and otherwise we're here for you.
100%.
You know, it's instead
Right.
of
Exact. That's you on point. Yeah, you summarized it.
it's actually kind of the framework for any really good like leadership relationship where one person is leading another, and in this case you're leading this army of ambassadors, and so you set clear expectations for them. Yeah, it's so great and so refreshing for the creators too. It's like, wow, I actually know something about this product and I like it, and these people are helpful for me, and I get to share in the success. Brand has my back for real, and they have some expectation that this is good. And the exclusivity piece, it sounds like you have a bit of a copywriting talent as well. One piece of advice that we give really consistently is, as a marketer, you're going to have to actively put on your salesperson hat and deal with things you're not familiar with, whether it's rejection or negotiation like you described. And so I think something so simple as taking on a seminar like you did, or doing a course, or talking, we often say, just go talk to the sales guys in your team and see how they would handle these situations, and you'll learn through them. Coming back to affiliate though, they've applied to you, you've given them these great terms, you have this incentives model where you focus on clicks, signups, this kind of thing, which I think is really great because it does two things. One is it puts the responsibility of your team where it should be, which is build an app that people want to use. And it also is, again, another incentive for the creator to say yes to this partnership, where another one says, you know, we have fintech companies, for example, who say you'll get paid a commission when a person signs up and verifies their identity and deposits money and then transfers money or something. It's really
long
difficult. Yeah. How do you keep these folks engaged then? How do you keep them posting and excited? How do you think about that, the churn?
It's challenging, I'm not going to lie, especially with affiliates, because you want them to continue being excited. And what happens with any human, right? It happens to you, happens to me, happens to all of us. If we don't see a quick result from what we're doing, from our actions, we get demotivated. And it can be a bit sad, and it you know, that's where we come in, and where we're like, look, you've done such amazing content, this is super, super cool. This month we only saw one sign up, fair enough, but like try it again, and you know, we get them motivated that way by staying in touch with them and actually like caring about them. What we try and do is also praise when praise is due. So sometimes we share them in our Instagram stories as well. So if they make great content, not only about AUMIO, but sometimes they post a cool reel or something. They post a nice post. Why not share that? You know? And so we try and do that, which is always nice. And it kind of it builds a community as well. And then we also get them involved in special campaigns. For example, we usually in October, we do a mental health awareness campaign where we, you know, collect just community feedback, etc. And we get them involved and kind of treat them a little bit more like a special fixed fee influencer as well. And lastly, sometimes we send them basically coloring books for their kids. Well, it's not books, it's a PDF, you know, they can print out and color in the characters that appear in our stories in our app. Or greeting cards, you know, Christmas cards, stickers. Not gonna lie, if after 2 months there's no code redemptions and they've really tried, we usually part ways as well, and then see if they maybe, you know, grow a little bit faster in the future, which is also actually part of the reason why sometimes we don't want to get everyone into the program, because if they're too small, us motivating them can be time consuming, and it can lead into basically returns, nothing. Yeah, so that's a bit sad, and we kind of like want to avoid that. Usually what's been a good number for us, benchmark, is like around 5,000 followers. Not to advertise Modash more, but you can see I'm sorry, but like I do I do this in real life as well, right? So Modash, if you go look up an influencer, and we do look up the ones we work with as well, which is pretty cool. I don't know if other people use it like that too, but if you put them in, and obviously the tiniest might not, you know, be too relevant, but you can see the growth, right? You can see at what rate they've been growing over time, and that gives an indication of where they might be going. And if you can see they're kind of like going up a little bit, and they've been like continuously and consistently growing, which without fake followers, which you can also check on Modash, you know that you might actually be kind of like close to hitting a gold mine. And I'm not talking just financially, but if you get in at that point and you build a really loyal collaboration with someone who's growing, you know how fast they grow. It's crazy. And suddenly they have like 30,000 followers and still super high engaged audience. And if they grow so fast, you basically have a continuously, like, you're exposed to new people. You get to expose your brand to new audience. Last year in November, we literally woke up one morning, checked the stats, and some small influencer had generated, and I don't know why, algorithm, still a mystery to me, had generated hundreds, I'm saying like 600 code redemptions. And this is a huge number in this sphere coming from a really small influencer. She's now at 70,000 followers, but it's still small, but she still generates like hundreds every month. You asked about the kind of saturation of the audience, right? It can be anywhere from like 3 to 6 months. We're now in July, August, so we would have worked with her for probably a year. And before those 600 code redemptions, literally overnight, we had 2 months where she had about like 40 maybe, right? We didn't expect this to happen. We had already worked with her and it was fine, and she got her payout. And this is why we now calculate the payout properly based on our average conversion rate from free trial to subscription, right? Because we ended up being in a bit of a pickle with her because the payout was just way too high.
Okay, yeah.
It's not great. So that was a bit dangerous.
One thing about that person who had a incredible month in November and then started growing super fast is that as they grow, more and more brands will reach out to them and ping them and want to work with them and be close to them. And all of them will fall short of that clear set of expectations and a reasonable commission model and friendly faces who are there to support with creative that they want to create. And that's so powerful, because then you have this real relationship with somebody who just continues publishing about you and only benchmarks you higher as more and more mediocre kind of outreach and spam, frankly, hits their inbox. And I think that's really powerful benefit to just going a little bit beyond in clarity and expectation setting. We've heard this from a few companies who, once they've set up their influencer partnerships function, it's kind of sustainable, it works, then they'll start looking at growth. So how do we find creators that are growing faster? How do we do that kind of thing? One thing you can do, if not for you, then for others, I'm sure you've thought about this too, is we've had companies who do strictly commission. They'll fully saturate the audience. They'll leave kind of with an exit package. Maybe, hey, here's some swag. Thanks so much for working with us. Let's come back when your audience has grown or whatever. And 2 years later, they'll go back to that creator and reinitiate a conversation. And the creator remembers, oh yeah, I worked with you before. I made some money. You always paid on time. You gave me this nice exit package. You were really straight up with me. And often they'll re-recruit those creators and keep That's coming back. And they'll do another 3, 4, 5 months, like you said, until the audience is totally saturated, and repeat. And it's a great relationship also for the audience, because now those folks who were there before, they get another kind of brand impression on that company, and they start to believe, oh, this wasn't like a one-off thing where this person got a paycheck. They actually use this product, or they actually have a relationship with this company. You mentioned kind of 2 categories of reactivating people, basically internal automation maybe, and the other one I would categorize as delight. And I think the first one I can kind of imagine as people stop redeeming codes or whatever, you have a list that sort of appears, hey, these haven't converted many downloads or signups or whatever. And then you start to let those folks go basically out of the program. Is there any other magic to the automated internals piece, or?
Not really. So we have the sales tool that reminds us of, if we want to reach out again in the future, just to keep kind of like track and to keep other team members informed. But to be honest, there isn't that much more magic involved. We're always a bit torn between really wanting to put more effort and work into affiliates, and we do have a budget to spend as well. So there's a lot of like fixed fee negotiations. That is the priority for us. One of our challenges is that we can't really use other, there's companies that run affiliate marketing campaigns for you. They can integrate that into your product, but you usually need a web shop. And that's our problem, that we don't do web sales at the moment. Hence the sort of like hands-on work that we do with all of them, which makes it very, very difficult for us to scale at the moment. I think, keeping them happy and feeling special, and then having reminders set in, like, calendar, Pipedrive, that sort of stuff.
Got you.
Just like reminders popping up 6 months later.
You mentioned a few things that you do that I would categorize as delight. So as your affiliates work with you over time, of course, they can't as easily keep, or maybe they get demotivated, distracted, or their audience is saturated. There's lots of reasons why an affiliate and influencer might stop converting tons and tons of customers.
Totally.
Tell me about those delight initiatives you mentioned. You mentioned all kinds of stuff.
It's not possible for us to do something on a really big scale because we're a very small company still at this stage. However, what we do is, for example, we just released a book, the first AUMIO, basically tangible book with a story with the same characters, etc. So thank you, very, very proud.
Super cool.
And so, for example, we'd send the book to a couple of our creators, even if we haven't booked them, because the performance was, declining a little bit. I can see creators still post about the brands. They still post about AUMIO, right? And they still use it as well, which is incredible, because if the product works, you can have fans that will share that they love the brand without, introducing it. They might just tag us or have one screen about us. It's the relationship again. So we send them a book, just small bits that we can kind of easily do at a low cost, keeping the effort low, but obviously we still do this because we love the creators we work with. But yeah, obviously the effort and the cost has to be in balance. For Christmas, I think we sent a couple of little AUMIO bottles, just water bottles, and the whole team got them as a Christmas gift, company Christmas gift. And then we sent a couple to influencers as well. And they were so happy about it.
Yeah.
They're they post about it in their stories. And it's just a small token of extra appreciation.
You also mentioned kind of republishing their content through your own stories or resharing reels, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's also such a easy and totally beneficial for the company, but just a little touch that they're not going to get if they partner with some agency who's representing a brand.
Absolutely.
Who can't do anything. Yeah. So it's awesome.
We had someone who posted on fixed fee content for us, and she was amazing. She's a speech pathologist, and so something, again, super niche. Highly engaged audience, as with niche creators. We wanted to make a social media post on how listening to audio content, to in particular to stories, can actually help with the development of speech, right, in children. So we wanted to kind of show how listening to stories helps kids talk earlier or develop their vocabulary and stuff. And so we basically created a post together with her. And it was a post where we finished the last slide. It was a carousel post, and we finished it with a little picture of her and her Instagram account and tagged her and stuff. And she shared it in her story. So she didn't have to produce the content. We produced it. But she shared it in her story with a link and a discount code and got a payout for it. So it was very low effort for her, but actually a really good outcome for us, because this is how she agreed on doing this as technically an affiliate, a different payment model.
Oftentimes, the reason that the people I talk to who are the most successful with partnerships also happen to be the ones who do these little touches, sending water bottles, sending coloring books, doing these things, is because it's actually unique. Something magical happens in your brain when your friend brings you a gift as a surprise, and it's the same thing. It's the exact same thing.
Like
and even in the case of just republishing content, you can totally imagine there's a real emotion that the creator can share with the audience then. It's not just I'm doing this transaction. It's first they publish the piece of content. It's a great story. So you folks republish it. And now they're posting again about you because, oh my God, they shared this thing that I made. They didn't have to do that, and they decided to do it anyway. How do you decide when to go on fixed fee versus affiliate model with creators?
There's different ways. So if they're small enough, we will always try to bring them in on like an affiliate basis. Not everyone gets the exact same. So sometimes if the person wants to negotiate and they're open to affiliate, to being paid out per code redemption, we're flexible a little bit. So we can raise that payout. For example, that's number one. Obviously, if the creator is represented by an agency, they will not agree to payouts like that. I have to just be completely honest. Like, it's usually inbound people that are interested in us and that are smaller than maybe like 15,000 or 20,000 followers. Sometimes we agree on what we call a hybrid deal, where we pay a certain fixed fee, which is technically a recoupable upfront fee, a 3-digit number, and like very low, like a low number still, that we negotiate based on just a normal CPM range. And then so they get that number and they get a payout once they've brought in the code redemptions necessary to make up the money that we pay them. It's kind of like a safety for them that they actually get paid for the work that they do, which I think is absolutely fair. They might want to make a little bit more effort, and so we pay them the sum to cover basically that effort. If it's really successful, they get stuff on top.
Awesome.
So that's kind of like the negotiation. And then moving them completely to fixed fee is usually they will ask, as you mentioned, if they grow and they get other brand deals, to them, obviously, like it can be better for them to just know what to expect, what sort of income to expect next month. They might have quit their job and do social media full time now. So there's always aspects in their life that will make them want to be paid fixed fee, and it's your job to figure out what their life is like right now, so you understand where they're coming from, which is the best basis for negotiations, in my opinion. And then we're happy to try it out.
Lots of folks who go into negotiations like this, because you're describing a rather openly creative, collaborative process of finding the middle ground between what the creator's expectations are and what the brand's expectations are. I think they fear that in part because they don't show up with the right information. And so there's too much downside risk. So the marketer shows up, for example, and they kind of, what they do know is that they're allowed to pay $100 for a post. What they don't know is whatever is possible on this more creative front. Do you have any advice on what kind of numbers you should definitely show up with when you start that negotiation, so that you don't have to be too rigid and you can kind of be flexible? Is there certain things that you think are really important to have straight before you start negotiating?
Multiple things, right? So you should be aware, in my opinion, that you're buying reach first and foremost, right? What you do is you negotiate ideally based on the actual impressions that you will receive. So YouTube is a really brilliant example, because on YouTube, creators get way more views and have way fewer subscriptions. So hence, look at the views, look at the story views, look at the recent ones as well. Don't look at the overview, the merged, whatever Instagram gives you. Look at the actual reach, and then ask yourself, you know, how much am I willing to pay to reach this and that many thousand people? And then the CPM benchmark that we usually work with is, we're definitely trying to stay under 30 euro CPM. So this is for Instagram specifically. I think for longer term platforms like YouTube, in my experience, that's a lot higher. It can be like twice as much, if not even more. Prices are obviously changing, but I guess we're all informing the market by negotiating. So yeah, so that's kind of the benchmark we work with. In my experience, in terms of negotiations, is this technique that many salespeople are definitely familiar with, anchoring. You give a range rather than a number. You're in a different position if you have to make the first offer. That's always a bit like, damn it. So in order not to go in too high, we give a range. And the lower range is usually probably lower than we'd expect them to accept. So that's like definitely not happening. And we know it, and they know it probably as well. But the range basically it shows where we would place the influencer. So sometimes we say like between X and Y, but we see you more on the upper end of this. And that's already, you know, showing this is the range, what we usually pay. However, we really like you. Therefore, I think you would probably deserve this. And that technique also means that they do have the lower number on their mind, right? Don't think of the pink elephant in the room. There you go. So I think marketers should really be aware that they're buying views and really be like, stick to that. And once you have your first set of data with results, look at stuff like, what's the view to click conversion? What's the view to download conversion? What's the view to sign up conversion? So look at all these numbers and like try again. We use this actually in our day-to-day life to predict the results. And if we see that the results look too big, and we know from experience, never is this influencer going to generate 100 signups on the first try, we kind of renegotiate and we reconsider. Observing this and then kind of forecasting a little bit and seeing what the goal of the campaign is super important. We had great results with a really low cost per click and a cost per download. That was really low when we actually just had a story on a little poll or some sort of form of engagement that the influencer was getting a community to participate in. And the call to action was just download the app. And that was it. If that's what you want, if you want to grow this way and then maybe convert at a later point, right? Get CRM involved, get different departments involved. I think it really is teamwork. So that could be a way. If the goal is for people to start a trial and use the code redemption, then you focus on that. So the call to action is like the only thing that we are really fairly strict on. And yeah, in my experience from like 10 campaigns, the top 2 will pay for the rest. The top 3 are complete flops. And the middle is just like average. Ideally pays for itself. So yeah, don't be discouraged if the first results are not as expected.
Can we end the show with you bragging a little bit about the effectiveness of your affiliate campaign? Can you leak these numbers? More secrets.
Yeah, so that's kind of why we even went and decided that this topic was worthy talking about. Actually, I've taken a deep dive into our numbers, and in recent months, and it's been consistent for the last like 3 to 4 months at least, the budget that we spent on influencers was about 2 to 4% of the total budget, right? But it has generated approximately 25% of all codes redeemed. So yeah, very little budget, lots of return. So
just a small marketing flex from Anna to close out the
show. Just something I came up with.
I'm sure most people wouldn't trade 2% for 25%. I bet everyone's got numbers like that.
It's like, look, I think so too. It's pretty common in here.
Awesome.
But no, yeah, it's definitely worthwhile. And also the love you get back from creators. That's exactly why I'm in influencer marketing and not in paid performance.
All the best people in this space talk about that fact, which I think is so fun. We talked a lot with Torlane, actually, who might be in your neck of the woods, I was thinking. She gave us a lot of insight into how they focus really heavily on kind of providing this white glove experience for creators, and how it's so much fun because they have this content go live where creators are so excited that they're literally crying in the content.
Oh my God, we had someone cry the other day too, because she was so grateful, and she's like, guys, you know how difficult it's been, and now like it's really working. And it was just like, it's heartwarming to see. And nice. It's really rewarding and sweet.
Indeed. Well, Anna, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. Thank you for spending it with me and with us. There's so much good stuff in there. Do you want to plug anything? I mean, we talked about AUMIO a little bit. Do you want to plug anything? Should people like connect with you somewhere, anything like that?
Please, you can find me on LinkedIn. My full name is Anna Maria Klappenbach, just to bring the name in again. Add me on LinkedIn. Happy to connect. I'd also be super happy to connect with more women in the industry and kind of like exchange and just be there for each other and kind of share experiences. That is something that I would love to talk more about. Anything brand marketing related, hit me up. Let's connect. Let's have a coffee. And download AUMIO and recommend it to your friends. It's really nice. Free to download.
Get some sleep.
Get some sleep, genuinely. Free 7-day trial, as mentioned. And,
you could get a whole week of sleep for free.
Imagine that.
Awesome.
It's like,
Cool. Let's wrap here.
Cool.